What's up, Padlords? It's your god, Lightwater here, coming at you with another video. And today, we're going to be discussing Resto Shaman. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So, the first thing I want to talk about is this Resto Shaman core passive. This is something that I made a bit of a mistake with the other videos. And I wasn't aware that WoW Database actually did this, but they went ahead and listed a template, essentially a 40% increase to all of your spells, core passive here. I always used to think that this is something that Blizzard baked into their game, but apparently they did not, and WoW Database was too lazy to also update their spells. So on almost every healer video that we've done so far, and that we'll do in the future, essentially all of the spells need to be increased by 40%, and I discovered this when I was doing my Disc Priest theory crafting, which will be coming soon. This doesn't necessarily mean too much. The math is not wrong that we did. It just, everything means that it's going to increase by 40%. So all the ratios, all the build suggestions that I taught you guys, and I did, those are all still correct. Just the numbers are essentially all 40% too weak. However, we will be correcting that in this video. So note that from this point on, all numbers will be essentially reflected with a 40% increase. Okay, get that out of the way. That's boring. Alright, moving on. First spell, Healing Surge. Now, you'll notice it says 20% base mana. Obviously, that's not actually 20% of your base mana. In reality, that is 4%. So you just divide it by 5. This is a hybrid class, so all the base mana costs on this website are all wrong. Moving on. Oh, well, I guess I should talk about. So heals for 135. After the 40% increase, that goes to 188.98. I'll just read them out on here, and then I'll show you guys the notepad later where I adjusted all the values. It'll be a lot simpler that way. So, Riptide. This is your hot 6-second cooldown. This is actually 1.6% of your base mana. And healing them for 62.5, an additional 62.5 over 15 seconds. So just half of its healing up front, and then the rest later. Healing Stream Totem. The actual mana cost of this spell is 2.2%. It has a 15-second uptime out of 30, so 50% uptime, and it heals for 32 every 2 seconds. I believe it's 8 heals, because it heals instantly, and then every 2 seconds after that, so 8 times 32. Alright, Chain Heal. What used to be your bread and butter, but isn't too good now. This costs 5% of your base mana, so it's pretty expensive. 2.5 second cast, so pretty slow. Heals the friendly target for 105, then jumps to the most injured nearby party or raid member. Healing is reduced by 30% after each jump. Heals a total of 3 targets. This goes to 4 targets after a passive we'll be reading in a bit. So it's 4 targets, loses 30% per jump, starts at 105. And the true, yeah, I already said the true mana cost. Okay. So, Healing Wave. This spell's actual mana cost is 1.8. It has a 2.5 second cast time, no cooldown. Heals for 155% of spell power of a friendly target's health. That's your kind of just standard, slow, cheap, efficient heal. Tidal Waves, our first passive. Okay, so casting Chain Heal or Riptide reduces the cast time of your next healing wave by 10%, or increases the critical effect chance of your healing surge by 40%, stacking up to 2 times. Tidal Waves. Casting Chain Heal or Riptide reduces the cast time of your next healing wave by 10%, or increases the critical effect chance of your next healing surge by 40%, stacking up to 2 times. Basically, this is going to either just increase your healing surge by 40%, or make it to where your healing wave is as fast as your healing surge. So, it kind of equalizes the spells, but we'll get more on that later. Those are not heals. Spirit Walker's Grace, this is relevant to talk about. This allows you to cast while moving. Very important, because a lot of healers can't cast while moving, obviously. This is, I would say, probably the best and most underrated tool that a shaman has, but nobody ever really talks about it. So yeah, we'll definitely be paying attention to that later on. This increases the duration of the hot on Riptide. So, and this is not reflected in this 62.5. So that does get increased, and that becomes, I think, 87 or something. I have it written down over here. We'll show it later. Okay. How much left? Healing Rain. Healing Rain is God damn it. Healing Rain's actual mana cost is 4.32%. Blanket the target area in healing range, restoring 75% spell power to up to 6 allies over 6 seconds. Sorry, 10 seconds. And it has a 10-second cooldown, which means that essentially this will be up every 10 out of 12 seconds, because remember, you have to cast the spell. So it doesn't have 100% uptime, and the mana cost is quite high, as you can see. That's basically your blanket AoE heal. People can move out of it, though, so it's kind of a bit difficult to land. Alright, Resurgence, your second passive. This is kind of the bread and butter. The reason why all the shaman spells are so expensive, because they have this to counteract it. Your direct heal criticals refund a percentage of your maximum mana. 1% from Healing Wave, 0.6% from Healing Surge, or Riptide, and I believe also Unleash Life, and 0.25% from Chain Heal. Now, it's worth noting that 0.25% from Chain Heal, that's per heal. So since Chain Heal hits 4 times, think of it as like 1%, right? So it's pretty good. If every single one of your Chain Heals bounces crits, you'll get back 1% of your base mana. So it's a fifth of its cost. So it's not bad. And your Unleash Life has this too. Mentioned that already. There's that passive we were talking about before, which gave an additional bounce for the Chain Heal. Spirit Link Totem. It's not a heal, but it's definitely worth mentioning if you don't know what it is. One of the best raid cooldowns in the game. Basically equalizes everyone's health in a circle and gives 10% damage reduction. If you don't know what it is, I suggest just reading it or looking it up. It's pretty insane. Another passive, this increases the effect of the tidal waves by 10%, which is nice. This is actually, the crit was already reflected with this, because I think the crit base is 30%. So basically, after everything's all said and done, you could either cast a healing wave at 20% faster or a healing surge with 40% more crit. The mastery. This is the reason why all the shaman spells are so weak, because they have the strongest mastery in the game. Increase healing from your spells by up to 24% based on the current health of your target. Lower health targets are healed for more. You can get this mastery very high. I think during Legion, my shaman had 150% mastery. And yeah, it does go over 100%. Sorry, that's an inside joke, but and it can get pretty good. I would say typically, obviously, you're not going to get the full amount out of this mastery, because people would have to be dead, because it increases the more the lower health they are, right? But you can get about 80 to 90% of your mastery occasionally if targets are very, very low. And because your mastery scales like so much better than everybody else's, it's very noticeable. And if you go heavy mastery, the difference between getting like a top parse and a bottom parse kind of have to do with how good your other healers are, unfortunately. So that's kind of one of the reasons I've never been a fan of Resto Shaman. But it definitely makes them very clutch healers when things are all going to shit and everybody's really low health. Healing Tide Totem. The actual mana cost of this is 1.12%. Pulses every 2 seconds, healing all party and raid members within 40 yards for 24% spell power. So that's going to be 5 heals times 24. Alright, so I have written this down, and I have included the 40% from the template. So all of these numbers have been increased by 40%. Now, the only thing this did not apply to was Earthen Wall Totem, right? Which is one of your talents here. And we're going to go over the talents here in a second, but we'll just quickly review the numbers. So Healing Surge is at 188 with 47. Riptide heals for 87, plus 105. Has 120 efficiency. Oh, so if you guys haven't seen my videos before, I write down how much they heal over here, their cooldown, their mana cost, and then I divide how much they heal by the mana cost, and I get this number over here, which is how much healing per 1% mana spent it does. Because in a 6-minute raid fight, which is what this video is about, if I haven't mentioned it already, this is for a 6-minute raid fight. This is the only number that matters, okay? So we are all about efficiency, because 6 minutes is a long time, and you're going to be expected to heal a lot. And you want to be able to do the most healing per mana spent in a 6-minute fight. Alright, moving on. Healing Stream Totem, 358, has 162 efficiency. Chain Heal, all those numbers. I did not put the add total there. I have it over here, though. It is 372, and the efficiency is 74. Healing Wave, 217, 120. Healing Rain, 105. Efficiency is 146. Healing Tide, 3,360. Efficiency's 3000. It's pretty damn good. And then you have all of the talents over here. So let's start talking about the talents. Okay, so the first row I found was the closest any row has ever been for healers ever. All three of these choices are basically equal. You can either choose to increase the initial heal of your Riptide by 30%. With Torrent, you can choose every third healing wave or healing surge you cast to heal for an additional 50%. Or you can get Unleash Life, which is a separate new spell. The actual mana cost of this is 1%. Unleash Elemental Force of Life, healing a friendly target for, and I have the actual heal number here. The actual heal number is 122.5. And then you increase the healing effect of the Shaman's next direct heal by 45%. So, I have the complete list over here of all the spells, and you'll notice, guys, I didn't really talk about it, but Healing Surge is so low on the totem pole. So, Healing Surge is basically useless. So, unless there's something in these talents to make it a lot better, we'll never cast it. It's just so low. Look how low that is. Honestly, anything below 140 is pretty terrible. And only Healing Rain and Healing Stream Totem make it out of that. But look at these talents, guys. Like, I'll show you. These talents are so strong. In these rows, I found that I personally wanted to go with Unleash Life. It was the most interesting choice. Because you don't really want to be casting that many healing waves or healing surges. And Riptide's like an okay spell. And after you take Torrent, it becomes, decent. But, I don't know. I just found that it was kind of cool to have another spell. And I don't know. It's honestly, it's up to choice because the impact is not that much. I found that Torrent was about a 1.3% HPS increase. Undulation was 2.5, and Unleash Life was 2.7. All right, moving on. Echo of Elements. Riptide, Healing Stream Totem, and Lava Burst now have 2 charges. Effects that reset their cooldown will instead grant 1 charge. This is basically useless. Honestly, it's like I have it as a 0.8% HPS increase, and that's because it's basically going to give you 1 more healing stream and like maybe 1 more Riptide over the course of a fight. It's actually just so bad. It really is. Maybe with like some crazy Azurite powers in the future, like there might be some weird combo, who knows, but I mean, like, we don't have anything that resets the charges on those, so I don't understand what the point is. This is like a talent you take for DPS if you're trying to do DPS as a Resto Shaman. Deluge. Chain heal heals for an additional 20% on targets within your healing range or affected by your Riptide. Again, I don't like this one. The reason being is it's long, complicated, and I write this paragraph out in the Google Doc below. But essentially, if you have a healing range down or you have targets affected by your Riptide, chances are they're getting healed a lot, right? If your healing range down, chances are it's in the melee or it's all the range stacking together, and they're receiving a lot of AoE heals. Chain Heal only heals the most injured ally. So you're going to cast Chain Heal on somebody who's in the healing range if you're good. Then Chain Heal is going to immediately say, hey, see you later, thanks boss. I'm going to go to somebody else who's more injured. Probably, if your healing range is in the melee, it's going to go to the range. If your healing range is in the range, it's going to go to the melee. Like, there's no way you're going to get a healing range unless the entire rate is stacked. There's no way you're going to get this off unless your entire rate is stacked inside the healing range and just spamming Chain Heals. Deluge is delusional. Does not make any sense. And I gave it like a 50% chance that it would hit the right target, and still that's not that good, right? Because Chain Heal has a terrible efficiency. Like, Chain Heal is a horrible heal, guys, as it stands right now without factoring anything else. So Deluge was not that good. However, new talent, Earth Shield. This one was pretty good. Earth Shield's about a 2 to 3% HPS increase, and it's back. It's pretty fun. The true mana cost of it is 2%. Protect the target with the Earth and Shield, increasing healing on them by 10%, and healing them for 27.5% spell power when they take damage, 9 charges. This can only happen every few seconds. So essentially, you can get about a healing shield off every 18 seconds, because 9 times 2 seconds, essentially. If you put this on the if you put this on the tank, it's going to be the best value. And then that way you can kind of Riptide the tank or healing wave the tank. You can put healing shield on other raid members if you guys know you're going to be taking a lot of damage, but this is obviously designed to be put on a tank, right? This is just good, reliable healing, and it's very cheap and efficient. and I found it was just a way better choice than these two, honestly. These two don't really do anything. This row doesn't necessarily matter. Pick whatever you want. Row 60. So, this is the only HPS increase. Ancestral Vigor just increases the maximum health of people when you heal them with your spells, and I tested this actually, it does not increase the healing that you get from Mastery. I thought maybe if it increases their maximum health, their current will be considered lower, therefore they'll get more out of their Mastery. No, that would have been cool, and Blizzard did not do that. So ultimately, a 0 HPS increase. Earth and Wall Totem, however, is a very powerful spell. I think this is 2.2% of your base mana, 60-second cooldown. Summons a totem with your total health for 15 seconds. And they take spell power damage from each attack against allies. It's essentially, you shield a group of people while they're standing next to the totem, and the totem loses its life to prevent them from taking damage. It's a very powerful heal. This will be like 5 to 10% of your healing. Like, this is a pretty decent HPS increase. And an Ancestral Protection Totem. Summon the totem at the target location for 30 seconds. So 30 seconds out of a 5-minute cooldown. It's pretty decent. All allies within 20 yards of the totem gain 10% increased health. If an ally dies, the totem will be consumed to allow them to reincarnate with 20% health and mana. Now, I'm not sure if this reincarnate counts against the total number of targets that you're allowed to rebirth in a fight. I do not know that. If it does count as one of those, then this is not that good. If it doesn't, then this is very good. Nature's Guardian. When your health is below 30%, you instantly heal for 20% of your maximum health. It cannot occur more than once every 45 seconds. This is the only HPS increase in this row, but Graceful Spirit is also very good. Reduce the cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace by 60 seconds and increase your movement speed by 20. I'm actually probably going to go with this talent on average. The cooldown of Spirit Walker's Grace is 2 minutes. So this essentially increases the amount of time it's up by 50%, or rather 100%, depending on how you look at it. And I think Spirit Walker's Grace's duration is like 20 seconds. So this is going to have you moving and casting 20 seconds out of every 60, which is insane as a healer. Insane. Windrush Totem. Summon the totem at the target location for 15 seconds, continually granting all allies who pass within 10 yards 60% increase. Movement speed for 5 seconds, a 2-minute cooldown. This is obviously a raid movement speed cooldown. This is completely dependent on the fight. If you have to move, you're probably taking one of these two talents. If you don't have to move, take Nature's Guardian. Pad up the meters. Row 90. Flash Flood. When you consume tidal waves, the cast time of your next heal is reduced by 20%. Useless. Just useless. Like, okay, so you've already consumed tidal waves, right? So you've already either cast faster or healed harder with your healing surge. So what are you going to cast faster? Like, I did the math, and you save like something like 5 globals over the course of a fight from being able to cast faster. It's incredibly lackluster, and I have it as about a 3% HPS increase, and that was being super generous, right? Because I was essentially pairing it with a lot of your healing rains, your Wellsprings, your Downpour heals, like things that take a while to cast. And I was always giving them 20% haste, and I was thinking, okay, so they save the time, now they can, whatever, right? No, it's just bad. It's just bad. Downpour, the actual mana cost of this is 3%. Is a 5-second cooldown, however, that will change. 1.5-second cast. Burst of Water at the target location, healing up to 6 injured allies within 12 yards for 120% spell power. That's a large number, actually. This is pretty insane. I found that this was about a 7.7% HPS increase. Also, yeah, the cooldown is increased by 5 seconds for each person that's actually healed. So think of the cooldown of the spell as actually 35 seconds. So the 35-second spell, this is essentially your artifact weapon from before. You cast it, and then boom, at a target location, everyone's healed for a pretty large chunk, honestly. I found that was pretty reliable and not the longest cooldown, 35 seconds. It's kind of like casting a Holy Word Sanctify if you're playing Holy Priest. Cloudburst Totem. This, I've never liked Cloudburst Totem. Essentially, this cost, what is the cost of Cloudburst? It costs 1.7% of your mana. 30-second recharge. It's up for 15 seconds. While it's up, it collects power from all of your healing spells, and when the totem dies, or you recast this spell, the healing is released, healing all injured allies within 40 yards for 25% of the healing that you did while it was active, divided evenly amongst targets. Now the problem with this, it only works on actual healing you did. So, if you want to get a good Cloudburst off, you have to have done a lot of healing. But again, you wanted to do a lot of healing. So if you did a lot of healing, chances are everybody's full health, right? You see where I'm going with this? It doesn't make any sense to do a lot of healing, store a lot of that into the totem, then you're going to release it. And the way shamans work is you want to release all this power when targets are the lowest. So I guess maybe if you do a lot of healing, you heal everybody up to full, and you're a really fucking smart player, and damage comes out, and then you recast Cloudburst, or it expires perfectly, then healing everybody again, you could really maximize the effectiveness of this totem out. And so if we're going off essentially a S+ player using this totem, it's an equal HPS increase to Downpour. So if you're a god, Cloudburst is equal to Downpour. If you're not a god, then it's half as good. Cloudburst I have as a 4.8% increase to all the way up to 7.3. Downpour is just at like a 7.7. So this is not only on average higher even than when you're like a good player, it's just easier to use. So this is my go-to talent personally. So I'll kind of go through here and put what I'm planning on taking, just so you know. Next row, High Tide. Chain Heal bounces to one additional target, and its fall off with each bounce is reduced by half. I found that this was about a 0% HPS increase, because, as I will show you here, here is Chain Heal at 372.6 healing, and here's it after High Tide. Okay, that's a pretty large increase. Went from 372 to 545. The problem is, when you come over here to mana efficiency, even when you factor in Resurgence, which is what this R number is, it only goes from 78 to 116. Remember, the benchmark here is like 140, okay? So if it doesn't get close to 140, it's garbage. It's just bad. And it's not even close to 140. So even if you were to take High Tide, it's still bad. We are never going to use Chain Heal. It's honestly that bad. Unless the fight is short, you don't use it. I feel like I'm committing sacrilege just saying this. I know I'm going to get like comments down below like, don't cast Chain Heal as a shaman, what are you, retarded? Yeah, well, guess what you don't also do? You also don't cast Healing Surge. Under no circumstance is Healing Surge good. Here's the base. Here's it plus Tidal Waves. Here's it plus Resurgence. Here's it plus Undulation. It does not even break 100. It's shit. And this is after the 40%. How many more buffs do I need to give this garbage spell? And it just doesn't, it never gets good. It costs too much mana. It doesn't do that much healing, even with all of its buffs. Riptide, if it does get up to about 150 with Torrent, without Torrent, it's at 132. It's not bad. It's a respectable spell. You can cast Riptide. But Healing Surge is off the table, and so is Chain Heal. Never ever cast them. So Healing Tide is a 0% HPS increase, because even when we take it, it's still a bad spell. Wellspring. This got buffed, and it was already okay before. But this spell is rather powerful. The true mana cost of this spell is 4%. 20-second cooldown. Create a surge of water that flows forward, healing friendly targets in a wide arc in front of you for 112.5% of spell power. Yeah, this is very powerful. This is pretty much going to be 20% of your healing as a character. Seriously. I found that it was like a 36% HPS increase. Like, after you take this, it just makes you so much stronger. This is the only reason I would bring a shaman is for Wellspring. That's how powerful it is. This is like, it literally heals. This is a Healing Tide totem every single time you press it. Every 20 seconds. That's how much healing it does. Yeah, I don't know what more I can say. It's just that powerful, guys. Ascendants. The tried and true Ascendants. Transform into a water ascendant for 15 seconds, causing all healing you do to be duplicated and distributed evenly amongst allies. This is a 3-minute cooldown with a 15% uptime, 15-second uptime. The average uptime this is up is 8.3%. And because it gives 100% increased healing while it's up, it's about an 8.3% HPS increase. So it's not terrible. You could use this to counter certain mechanics, but honestly, guys, Wellspring is just too strong and we can't not take it. So, what does this all mean? Well, I will show you the finished notepad here. And I have factored in everything. Annihilation, Torrent, Unleash Life, Tidal Waves, Resurgence, the 40% from the template. And here are the final numbers. And also I've included all of the talents here. You'll notice that if this is going to be our final build, we took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra spells, right? And all of those spells are reflected here, and their efficiencies are very high. Look at Unleash Life after you include its passive. It goes to 259. Earth Shield at 190. Earthen Wall Totem at 944. Downpour at 336. Cloudburst Totem, I figured, was about a 7.3% increase. Wellspring, and this is with 10 targets and with 20 targets hit. Look at that. Look how high that is. And you go back to your base spells, and they're just like what is this? Who cares, dude? Healing Wave is 140 with Resurgence, and 163 if you take Undulation. So yeah, I will show you the last and final notepad here. I have assembled all the information onto this one nice notepad. Yeah, there's a lot here, I know. But essentially, you only are allowed to cast these 13 situations, or these 13 spells. So I've ordered them from best to worst. Healing Tide is at 3,000. Earthen Wall Totems at 944. Wellspring with 20 targets, 787. Wellspring with 10 targets, 393. Downpour, 336. Unleash Life with its passive and Resurgence factored in is at 259. Earth Shield is at 190. Healing Wave with Resurgence and Undulation, so remember this is only if you take Undulation, is at 163. Healing Stream Totem, 162. Riptide with Resurgence and Torrent, so this is only if you take the Torrent passive, is at 150. Healing Rain is at 146. Healing Wave with Resurgence is at 140. Riptide with Resurgence at 132. Anything below this line is garbage, but we'll still talk about it. This is a Healing Tide Chain Heal plus Resurgence. Only gets to 116. Healing Surge plus Tidal Waves plus Resurgence plus Undulation only at 80. Chain Heal, the regular Chain Heal plus Resurgence is at 78. Anything below this I didn't feel like talking about. What the hell? Yeah. So for rotation, you use 1 through 7 and 9 to 11 on cooldown as much as possible. It's so ridiculous. You're playing whack-a-mole with your weak auras, guys. It's insane. Like I have something like 11 weak auras on my screen, and when I'm raiding, I just essentially push. Like I feel like I'm like Batman or something with my utility belt. You know, I'm like, oh, some AoE damage. Hiya! I throw out like, you know, Totem. I'm like, some more AoE damage. Hiya! I throw out like another AoE heal. It's just like, it's just so ridiculous. But essentially, you want to be casting Healing Tide, Earthen Wall Totem, your Wellsprings, your Downpours, your Unleash Lives, and your Earth Shields as much as possible. And then also your Healing Stream Totem, and then Healing Rain and Riptide on cooldown if you can. Like, assuming there's enough to heal and you'll never overheal, guys, you pretty much do everything from 1 to 11 on cooldown. It's just kind of ridiculous. Like, I don't know how to explain this, but yeah. So your filler is going to only be about 10 to 20% of your overall mana, and that's going to be what you picked on your level 15 choices. This is the only really change with the build, guys. This is your only flexibility, is which one of these 3 do you pick, and that's going to be the spell that you spam. So if you chose Torrent, all you do is push Riptide, and then you do the rest of these. So you would have the... So if you had Torrent, then you only cast Riptide, which is number 10. So you would ignore number 8, and you would ignore essentially the other combo here. I'll just read these out. If you have Undulation, you only cast Healing Wave, 8. This one right here. If you take Torrent, then you only cast Riptide, 10. If you took Unleash Life, then what you do is you cast Riptide, then Unleash Life, then Healing Wave, in that order. Never use anything below the line. If you want a par spell, they're all trash. Tips. Okay. So, you want to try to use your AoE spells when there's obviously something to heal. If you cast a Tidal Wave, and everybody's already topped off, or sorry, a Wellspring, everybody's already topped off, obviously that's terrible because that's going to be your main spell. Certain spells can be used on cooldown regardless of the situation, like Earthen Wall Totem. Earth Shield, Healing Stream Totem. These are things that you can just throw down without thinking about on cooldown every single time, because they're going to get their healing off. Like Earth and Wall Totem's a shield. You guarantee shields are going to get used. Earth Shield will only go off when they take damage, which is perfect. Healing Stream Totem is a smart heal. It'll always find stuff to heal that you can't necessarily see. Your main power comes from your mastery, so try to time spells to be the first one there and steal the heals. Yeah, timing spells is absolutely key. You see the boss about to do a mechanic. You have to get your spells going up beforehand. You put a healing rain down, damage comes out right when you send out a massive wellspring, and then you quickly follow it up with a downpour. Imagine everybody's stacked in the healing rain. You are charging up the wellspring, damage comes out, you heal it with the wellspring, and then you finish it off with a downpour. You could single-handedly heal raid mechanics like that. And maybe you had your Earth and Wall Totem out before, so it took a lot of the brunt of the damage. Like, these are all things you have to do to maximize your healing as a Resto Shaman. Resto Shaman is not a simple class. There are so many buttons that you have to press, and at the end of the day, guys, if you play a Resto Shaman perfectly, unfortunately, because how low their numbers are, you're probably only going to be as good as another healer on their bad day. Unfortunately, Resto Shaman is really weak right now, and Blizzard has talked about how essentially they're shelving Shaman as a whole class right now until they can figure out what to do with it. So there's probably going to be a rework in the make, guys. So a lot of this information will be outdated probably here in a couple months, but I feel like we should talk about it, because if there are Resto Shamans who are listening who want to, do the best with what they have now and they love the class, well, here it is, guys. You're basically an AoE healer, so don't try to be a hero and save the single chromosome thieves. Don't save the retards, guys. They're not worth it. Let's do a quick review. Never ever cast Healing Surge. Never ever cast Chain Heal. Only cast Healing Wave and Riptide when everything else is on cooldown. And then make a lot of weak auras and play Whack-A-Mole with all this shit. And then, I don't know, profit. Like, it's a hell of a class to play. Here's the average cast that you'll be doing in a fight, and here's the average mana you'll be spending on them. As you can see, these are like a patchwork healing fight, so it's as if you had the perfect healing fight with no overhealing. 18 Wellsprings, 10 Downpours, 6 of these Earth and Wall Totems, 20 Earth Shields, 2 Healing Tides, 12 Healing Stream Totems, 2 Spirit Links, 6 Spirit Walker's Graces, 30 Healing Rains, 20 Healing Waves, 22 Riptides. And that basically uses all of your mana. So you should kind of model what your casts are based around this. And I guess that's it for me, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like what you saw, go ahead and drop a like or a comment. If you have any questions, feel free to hit me up at the email below, or you can hit me up on Twitch at twitch.tv/lightxwater. Once again, thanks for watching the video, guys. I'm sorry it was really long. My thoughts were kind of all over the place, and we had to talk about the new 40% template and whatnot. But anyways, thank you for watching, and let's make healing great again.